As the agency contract is about to expire, Call of Duty Online will officially cease operations on August 31, 2021. After the game server is shut down, all account data, characters, and other information in the game will be cleared.
Call of Duty Online. A now defunct game that, even before its shutdown, had little known about it. There's some coverage on YouTube, but no one has dove deep and know what made it such a unique Call of Duty. Most know the game for being free to play and exclusive to China, China's only Call of Duty actually, and a weird one at that too. It was first play tested in 2013 and then officially released in 2015 by Raven Software and Tencent Games. COD Online was essentially an amalgamation of storylines, maps, characters, and various assets from the Modern Warfare, Black Ops, Ghost, Advanced, and Infinite Warfare series. This is most likely because every Call of Duty being banned in China besides COD Online. Even though COD Online was a game only in China, there were ways for US players to join the fun, but it wasn't easy or intended. It was a complex process of having a Chinese citizenship code and a QQ account, China's social media equivalent to Facebook, both required to play the game. I've been familiar with the game for years, but I was only able to successfully play it in 2019, where I was working on a video about beating all Call of Duty campaigns on Veteran. Believe it or not, COD Online did have a campaign, and man was it bizarre. I describe in that video how difficult it is to play the game. Every tutorial on how to make a usable account didn't work, but I eventually got in contact with another player who was willing to sell me his account, so that gave me my ticket in. I thought after completing the campaign I wasn't going to return to the game, except for when my friend Kevin and I started working on an upcoming series related to COD Zombies, and on our list of games to cover, of course, COD Online was on there because it included a zombies mode. Several, actually. We were planning on covering it eventually, we were in no rush, but when that announcement dropped on QQ's website on May 31st that COD Online was shutting down after August 31st, 2021, we knew all effort needed to be shifted towards the game that wasn't going to be around much longer. Then came the problem of Kevin and I being able to play together. A few days after the shutdown announcement, they shut down new players from joining, which was a bitch. That meant we had to find another player to receive an account from, which was way easier said than done. Not only was the game's community pretty dead on Reddit and YouTube, but we didn't speak the language of the game's primary player base. We reached out to small channels playing the game, tried to reach out to some people on Reddit with no luck, but ended up getting pretty lucky one day when, using the account I already had, I wanted to show Kevin what the game looked like, so I threw my gameplay on Twitch real quick, only one streaming it by the way, and while streaming, a player from China joined the chat. He left a few comments in Chinese, so Kev started translating his English into Chinese with the hope of this stranger maybe having an account we could use. He did, he actually had a few of them, so he gave Kev a throwaway account, didn't work, so he gave him his main account with a bunch of in-game money, weapons, and crazy stuff unlocked. I can't thank this guy enough. His Twitch name was Amateur Biba. Look him up, follow him. He's awesome, super nice guy who hooked us up for free and made our lives so much easier. Major shout out. Now that we're both able to play, Kevin and I took it upon ourselves to play every bit of zombies content the game had to offer. Every map, every mode, whatever we needed to do to provide the most comprehensive breakdown of a Call of Duty Zombies experience that would be gone forever. Even though the focus today is on zombies, it's worth noting the large array of various modes available in COD Online. There was a somewhat normal but still weird multiplayer, Battle Royale, Prop Hunt, a werewolf murder mystery mode, this insane robot infected mode, amongst many strange others. So with that said, enjoy as me and my boy Kev
Wait, what are we even doing?
describe our experiences playing and beating all 36 Call of Duty Online zombie maps that are now in the Aether. Like I said earlier, several zombie modes. As of the last playable version before shutdown, we accounted for 9 different modes that include zombies as enemies. Each was a little different, all pretty easy, at least easier than the normal US zombies for the most part. We accounted for 36 maps in total. Of those 36, 9 maps were unplayable because of the game modes being removed years ago. As of for the ones we were able to successfully play and beat are as follows: 4 Cyborg Rising maps, 5 Survival Zombie maps, 8 Zombie Havoc maps, 2 Ultra Zombie maps, 1 Undead Siege map, and 7 Doomsday maps. And for the unplayable maps, on the old modes, there was 1 Aerial Reaper map, 5 Evacuation maps, and 3 Deus Ex maps. Now those are all the maps to the best of our knowledge. We found out about those unplayable modes in the more popular videos made about this game. We believe they were removed around late 2015, early 2016, not confirmed, just know in the last playable version before shutdown, they were nowhere to be found. Let me be clear, very hard game to speak 100% about. Honestly, researching a game titled Call of Duty Online is near impossible to find solid information on because every Call of Duty having online modes. And since this was exclusive to China, all menus, map titles, in-game text, and pop-ups were all in Chinese, so the only way we were able to read anything is by using the camera feature in the Google Translate app. Thank God for that. Would be undoable without it. But that app isn't perfect though, so some of what we say or explain might be off because of incorrect translations. Even though 95% of the game was in Chinese, there was still a significant portion of on-screen text and dialogue that was English for no explainable reason. Also worth noting early is how the discussed zombie modes have optional difficulties, usually a lower difficulty called Ordinary, a harder difficulty called Heroic, which we always played if given the option, and the occasional no round mode. The difficulty's key differences were the amount of rounds needed to play to complete the map. What we mean is Ordinary mode contained a lower amount of rounds required to finish the map, Heroic normally doubled the rounds required to finish the map, and no round mode was essentially infinite rounds, similar to the US's zombies. We would have played that mode if every map had that difficulty, which wasn't the case. Those required round amounts needed to complete the map were indicated in the corner of the HUD. One of the most interesting aspects of COD Online that will jump out at you immediately is the map recycling present in almost every zombies mode. Classic multiplayer maps we all grew up playing on from the Modern Warfare and Black Ops series are here, but you battle zombies instead of players, which took a while for us to get used to. We even occasionally recognized maps from various campaign missions as well. That and the fact that there was a lot of map overlap between the modes are just a few examples of the corner cutting in COD Online. So if you couldn't already tell, COD Online zombies did a lot of things different. A few differences that applied to almost all maps include: first, there was no wall weapons whatsoever. Wall weapons are usually a COD zombie staple mechanic, but were non-existent in this title. Second was you had access to a third weapon. I'm not talking mule kick, instead a third in the form of a melee weapon. It was accessible by holding E. I didn't have one, but Kevin's account did. There were several available for purchase. Each one I saw seemed pretty overpowered because of their damage and essentially infinite ammo, but they were dope. Third was the very odd but obvious why they did it feature of revive tokens, as we called them. What I mean by this is COD Online had a feature to pay real money for in-game currency that allowed you to be instantly revived, regardless if everyone was down. Even though this was a mad slimy feature for financial and gameplay reasons, man were they nice. The account Kevin received had a ton of them, and they lasted us through nearly our entire time playing the game. Kevin also received more through supply drops, but that was rare. They were honestly so essential, with some enemies that were crazy overpowered. We felt weird using them, but low-key had to. And a fourth difference was overall gun design and function. COD Online had hands down the craziest, most insane, ludicrously different looking guns than any other COD title. Not just zombies, but all modes. I'll showcase some of the wildest examples I could find here. Some guns played a jingle on the reload, others had bizarre paint jobs, some had unique animations. Hell, there was a literal gun that was powered by a live eel that could be shocked or exchanged for a new one. COD Online Zombies was honestly packed with different unique features. Purple screens instead of red, zombie number counters on the HUD, damage indicators and health bars. You would stand back up if downed if the round ended, and hey, we're all used to dolphin dives in zombies, but what about somersaults? That's not to say COD Online didn't share a lot of
interesting similarities as well, such as the ability to use custom classes. This feature is only really in the newer COD zombies, but COD Online is an early example of it. Custom classes were allowed on most modes, but not everyone. The feature allowed for the player to use any gun the game had to offer in zombies, which was pretty nice. We would have utilized this feature more by using the best guns in the game, purchasable by COD points, but with the shutdown announcement and shutdown of new members also came a shutdown of in-game transactions, which there were a lot of. So we were limited to default weapons and what we unlocked along the way. What was tricky about that in COD Online was the guns you unlocked were always temporary, so when the time period you were able to use the gun was up, you were stuck with a bunch of empty classes that we sometimes jumped into games with. What made this feature great though was the addition of the perk scavenger. It made ammo so much easier, with each zombie dropping ammo similar to Vulture Aid. Okay, so that about covers the need to know info regarding all maps in general, but before we get into each map and mode, I gotta mention a pretty late cool discovery. Even though COD Online is shut down completely, the zombies still sort of live on in the Chinese version of COD Mobile. It's a long story that I won't go too much into detail in this video, but COD Mobile in the US had zombies in 2019, only the map Shinonuma, also the Green Run maps in the beta version, but it got removed in 2020. Then in 2021, China's version received a zombies mode, also just Shinonuma, also the beta version had the Green Run maps, but overall the zombies mode was very similar to the US's, except they were cyborg zombies, which we'll get into, but they originated in COD Online. And even more recent than that, in the US, COD Mobile received another zombies mode that includes a mode taken straight from COD Online, Undead Siege. It shares a lot of similarities in look and gameplay, even in name. Also worth noting is in all versions, both the US and China, new and old, the style of boss battles is influenced heavily by COD Online as well. This makes total sense because both COD Mobile and COD Online have the same developer, Tencent Games. Plus, when the COD Online shutdown was announced, Tencent announced compensation for current players in the form of COD Mobile in-game money and exclusive items. Honestly, I've noticed a lot of COD Online influences all over the place in COD Mobile. It's just really cool to see that even with COD Online's shutdown, remnants of it still remain. Anyway, now onto the map by map breakdown, where we will detail all 36 maps COD Online had to offer in order to document Call of Duty history.
To start it off, what could be deemed the closest mode to the US's normal round-by-round zombies was Cyborg Rising. There were 4 maps in total, and they shared a lot of similarities with the standard zombies, but contained a lot of differences as well. The 4 maps were literally just reskins of the 4 classic World at War maps. Nocturne and Toten, here named Outpost, Verrucht named Mechanical Research Institute, Shinonuma named Evil Swamp, and Doris named Machine Manufacturing Plant. Each could be played with up to 4 players. For each mode, we will go over the zombie variants available. Cyborg Rising included 3 different enemies. Cyborgs, who loudly stomped around instead of running and bled blue blood. Cyborg dogs, which were cooler looking versions of the Hellhounds. And alien bosses, who shouted EMP disruptors that honestly didn't affect gameplay much at all. The reason behind this mode containing cyborgs and not zombies was because it, alongside Deus Ex, Aerial Reaper, and Evacuation mode, were the first 4 zombie modes in COD Online in 2015. All having just cyborgs as enemies, all because of the Chinese censorship laws. Those laws either got changed or stopped applying because besides those 4 modes, 3 of which were unplayable, all of the other maps and modes contained actual zombies. To get into it, these 4 maps didn't have the normal endless amount of rounds. Instead, they had 8 rounds if you chose the ordinary difficulty, or 16 if you chose heroic like us. At the end of those 16 rounds, you had to kill a few more cyborgs till a timer ran out, then you exfilled, similar to Cold War, this time through a black hole. Let me first explain the currency in Cyborg Rising. Instead of the normal growing money amount, you charged batteries. Batteries could be used for buying ammo, which we did a lot of, unlocking doors, buying traps, perks, packing, and buying the box, you could accumulate up to 5 batteries maximum. You were even able to see other players' batteries amounts as well. The battery prices for perks and Pack-a-Punch were unique because they gradually increased. You started by buying perks and upgrading guns each for 2 batteries. Both systems worked the same way. Each purchase cost 1 more battery than the previous. When it came to perks, throughout the 4 Cyborg Rising maps, the available perks were the classic 4 you normally see: Juggernog, Speed Cola, Double Tap, and Quick Revive. All had unique looks exclusive to this mode, but overall they didn't feel as essential as in the US's versions, where they're basically required. Here, they felt like lesser versions of themselves. For Pack-a-Punch, it had a new sci-fi look, and each time you packed a gun, it increased its damage by 25%. You could pack 4 times, allowing for a 100% damage increase, essentially 2 times the default damage. Nothing crazy new in this department overall. When it came to the mystery box, it was way different though. Not only did it look more futuristic like Pack-a-Punch, but it didn't work the same way. First off, you could hit each box way more times before it moved locations, so much that it rarely ever moved within the 16 rounds. A funny thing to note on Outpost, aka Knocked, a map usually known for a non-moving box, contained several box locations which felt really strange to switch between. When you spun the box for 1 battery, you only had the option of getting ammo, monkey bombs, a Bowie knife, the ray gun, the Wonder Waft, or the Thunder gun, which was only on Mechanical Research Institute, all with limited non-refillable ammo. Or you could get 1 of 5 elemental mine bombs. Those included fire mines, which provided a temporary flame barrier, ice mines, which temporarily froze enemies, which slowed them down, electric mines, which were used to create an electric barrier, black hole mines, which worked the same way as Ascension's Gersh devices, and our favorite, which were the shrinking mines, which worked nearly identical to the baby gun from Shangri-La. The shrinking mines turned the cyborgs into tiny, kickable baby versions of themselves, which constantly had us dying. You could even kill the babies when downed. Also found in this mode are the classic drops: Nuke, Carpenter, Insta-Kill in the form of a damage increase, and Double Points in the form of a 2 times battery charging. There were also unique lesser perks called skills, with varied abilities that could be obtained at random through drops. We each had quite a few of these, but it was hard to nail down exactly what each one did.
There was also a partial battery drop.
And there were dog rounds on these 4 maps, but instead of dropping the normal max ammo, they dropped a blue glowing full battery drop. Now for the mode in general. Since it was the first we played out of the 6 playable modes, there were a few things that we noticed pretty quickly. First of all, there was an extremely annoying feature in this game that made training very difficult, which was the zombies could hit you from behind as if they were grabbing you, which slowed you down immensely. A very different feeling mechanic that was quite annoying. The second difference was reviving in Cyborg Zombies. When you went down, you were given a 40-second timer. Also when downed, this actually applies to every zombies mode, you kept your perks, but if you fully died, you did lose them. If you did end up dying, it's funny cause in COD Online, your body stayed on the map, you could even have several piled up. The third difference was the addition of threat indicators, used for alerting players of approaching zombies. This isn't in any other COD, and were here in the form of exclamation marks telling you where to watch out. The fourth difference was how quickly zombies enter the map, like crazy quick. It was kind of hilarious how many cyborgs would attempt to fit through the same window at once because of how fast they spawned. The speed at which they came out was comparable to maybe Cold War or World War II zombies. Last notable difference was the kill numbers and time to complete each of the 4 maps. This possibly could be said for World at War as well, but the amount of zombies killed and the time it took to do it got larger as the maps went on, in the order of the DLC releases. When it came to turning on the power, nothing different there. Basically the same locations as the maps they were based on. Also worth noting is the famous train patterns and camping spots these classic maps are known for were also effective in these versions of the maps as well. Individual notes for each map are as follows.
Outpost was the standard Knocked for the most part,
besides the box locations, and just like normal, there were no perks. Our strategy was me in the first room and Jeff in the box room, both training. Also, we thought it was the coolest looking alternate version compared to World at War. The city location was so refreshing compared to the dark, dingy predecessor. Mechanical Research Institute was notable for having the best camping area in the entire mode, where we covered a window, 2 hallways, and spammed the electric trap. We stayed there for a majority of the game.
And it's funny in this version of Rucked, since there were no wall weapons, there was no pointless bar door by.
There was also an annoying water effect that was on our screens constantly. On Evil Swamp, again, pretty loyal to its World at War counterpart, except for this version of the Flogger was terrible. Our strategy was me training by the Flogger, and Jeff training in the northeast circular swamp part of the map. Lastly, 4 machine manufacturing plant, pretty standard again. You had the length of teleporters like normal, definitely took the longest to complete. Like I said earlier, the zombie kill counts greatly increased up to this point. Our strategy was me training near power and Jeff training in the starting room. None of the maps were too hard. Overall, it was a blast playing on modern versions of the iconic first 4 zombie maps. Sad these will be gone because they are an important part of COD's history.
Okay, now for one of the more unique modes of the 6, Ultra Zombies. This mode was comprised of 2 maps, Zombie Island and Zombie Arena. Both extremely strange, but oddly both pretty fun. Both maps could be played with up to 4 players. A trend you'll notice quickly starting with this mode are the very bizarre looking enemies. A lot of reskins and enemies that look very much like stolen assets from other games. Let's start with Zombie Island. Overall, it was a pirate themed map with unique pirate themed zombies that was really unlike any other map in the entire series. Let's first break down the types of zombies we encountered on the map. Pirate zombies, different only in apparel. Yellow cicadas, as we called them, very similar to Black Ops 3's flying enemy. Fatty zombies, as we called them. Some wielded stop signs and others that wielded cannons like rocket launchers, fire-spitting hellhounds, suicide bomber zombies, armored crab zombies that crawled underground and were killed by stunning them and shooting their stomachs. Teleporting zombies, I mean, get a look at what I mean. Imagine trying to kill these. And finally, the huge shark boss that is easily one of the craziest COD Zombies boss battles ever. Many compare it to the Attack of the Radioactive Things boss battle from Infinite Warfare. Regardless, we liked it. Also worth noting, there was a pirate mini-boss. You will see this exact enemy in different modes, but he originated here. When you start off, you're lifted out of the ground through a tube, Hunger Games style, and you are greeted by a large stone turtle statue that can be activated to give the player random perks every couple of rounds, up to 8 maximum. Hard to tell what each one did, regardless, they made things easier. Kevin even got the random gun shuffler as a perk, so he had access to several types of weapons throughout. Another nice feature of this map was the infinite ammo, with some of the other modes being non-stop ammo grinds. On Zombie Island, your ammo was non-stop regenning, major bless up for that. Zombie Island took 17 rounds to complete, 14 if on ordinary, and every couple of rounds you were transported to a different portion of the map, 4 areas in total. The final location was a return to the beginning room where you had to face the huge shark boss. Zombie Island honestly was really sick. There was a round in the dark, a section where you needed to avoid falling rocks, and a whole round where you fought against baby zombies. The boss battle was actually really awesome, really fun to go against a massive enemy, and overall really unique compared to what you'd normally expect from COD Zombies. And I have to mention, when it comes to that boss, Kevin carried my ass through that. I died super early in the round, and Kevin, with those tokens, clutched it. During a portion of the map, there was a strange section where you had to hold capture points on a castle and then defend that castle, complete with cannons to use against the enemies. It was alright, we appreciated the weird, non-traditional zombies attempt. Overall, the map wasn't too hard. What was tricky though was the crazy quick revive timers. Once one of us went down, we were only allowed 10 seconds to snag the other player, which pretty much guaranteed the person was gonna die. An aspect about this map we found hilarious was there was random care packages dropped throughout the map that would be delivered by a monkey on a balloon. We had to chase it and shoot it down in order to get a max ammo. It was so un-COD-like, but we really got a laugh out of those. We didn't have much of a strategy because it was a pretty easy map. We just killed what was in front of us and found a couple slime spots here and there. So for the other Ultra Zombies map, Zombie Arena, which was 15 rounds long, 10 if on ordinary, it was a large single room circular arena complete with massive advertisements for actual COD Online microtransaction cosmetics, pulse cannons, which you could stand on, and that were pointed at 6 large doors where all the zombies would enter, and a large batch of crazy unique zombies, which were as follows. Of course, your standard zombies, the slightly more tanky yellow boys, as we called them, Nova 6 crawlers, which looked straight out of Black Ops 1, Nova 6 hazmat zombies, gotta assume Nova 6 because it's in the campaign, fire-spitting hellhounds, floating heads that kept reminding us of Doom enemies, devil zombies, which were literally just Nova 6 crawlers who stood up instead of crawled, had horns, and ran around while screaming. Yellow mini-boss zombies with hammers that in order to kill them, we had to lower each one of their healths to the same amount and kill them at the same time, because if not, they would revive each other. Lastly was the ridiculous flying exosuit demon final boss, who honestly was super hard to take down, but had us weak when he entered the map. His animation looks like a straight rip off a ring entrance from a WWE game, dead ass. The boss battle was amazing. We had several stages of health to go through, and it was just a really intense, thrilling conclusion. Again, can't cap, Kevin clutched that boss battle as well. Granted, he had the tokens, but generally he's the better player, though he killed that shit. Not an easy final fight. That final boss had some crazy overpowered moves, plus those yellow tanky mini bosses returned, adding even more sweat required to clutch it. Again, you entered the map through a tube, similar to Zombie Island, and those annoying quick revive timers were also present in this map as well. It was so dumb because the time required to revive someone was easily 3 times longer than it took to bleed out. Not gonna lie, Zombie Arena was an awesome map. It looked ridiculous and it appeared packed with stolen assets, like even that turtle statue from Zombie Island was on this map. Even though it didn't fit this theme, it was still fun though. There were several memorable parts, such as the section in the white mist and the super cinematic epic round in the dark with crazy flashing lights from every angle. There was even a part where gun drops would be scattered around the map, and Kev managed to pick up a super powerful version of the ray gun. Ammo worked similar to the previous map, instead this time, in order to get the infinite regenning ammo, you needed to stand within the center ring. That ring also was what we were supposed to defend, because when the zombies reached it, they transitioned into a more powerful enemy, usually one of those fire-spitting hellhounds or the tanky yellow boys. Our strategy really just consisted of us both training the smaller, easier zombies individually, but then occasionally teaming up to take the larger enemies out with the pulse cannons. Lastly, this map is notable for killing my 8-year-old graphics card. Rest in peace to that legend. One of our runs was cut short when it exploded mid-game, and once I went through the painstaking process of attaining another one, we finally finished her off.
Okay, for this mode titled Undead Siege, it only contained a single map titled Infected Area. This mode is the one Jeff mentioned earlier, where it's extremely similar to COD Mobile's current Zombies mode, which is also under the same name. The concept is nearly identical, the map is very similar, and we just haven't seen anyone make that connection. We thought it was neat to point out. This mode was unique for COD Online because it didn't include a round counter to indicate the amount of rounds needed to complete the map, like most others, which made us initially think that it was endless. Undead Siege was also one of the few modes to have only one difficulty. Jeff and I played the map several times, trying to understand it more and more each time, because man, knowing Chinese would have helped a lot this mode, more than any other, because it contained a lot of reading. After several failed attempts of not actually completing the map, we decided we had enough footage to talk about it, but that felt slime. So we jumped back on and realized the magic number was 7 rounds. And by that point, we actually figured out how the mode worked. Undead Siege mode worked like this. You started off on a large open map where up to 6 players would run around collecting guns, ammo, grenades, health syringes, and crafting materials. The portion where you collect items around the map was under a timer, and once that was up, you and the other players needed to stand within a force field surrounding a vessel, again for a certain amount of time, where you needed to defend the vessel from a variety of zombies until the time was up. Once you defended it successfully in the time period, the next day started. So it worked like a day and night cycle for 7 days, where every couple of days the vessel would move locations. The number one way you were supposed to defend the vessel was by crafting turrets using different colored crafting materials found throughout the map and placing them around the force field zone for defense, and continually upgrading them as the days went on. Also, the vessel could hold excess materials, which was a nice feature. The turret element was tricky to understand because each upgrade had a unique crafting recipe that took several tries on the map to understand. The mode was pretty fun actually. The concept was like nothing we've seen before, and it was a nice change of pace. The way guns, ammo, and health were dispersed around the map was very similar to a battle royale. The map was similar to that mode as well. For us, we found it kind of worthless to gather ammo or even use the guns in general because the zombies were so tanky tanky, and we would immediately run out of ammo trying to kill them. Grenades were pretty effective though, and the melee weapon was as well. You could actually use the melee weapon to repair the vessel's health, which was bizarre, but very helpful. Weirdly enough, there was even mystery boxes scattered throughout, but even if we got a cool gun, they were empty of ammo, so there was little point to wasting money on that. When it came to the zombie variety, here's the different ones we saw. Spiked armored zombies, Nova 6 hazmat zombies, King mini bosses, Juggernaut death machine mini bosses, chained up blue teleporters, the running screaming devils, fire spitting hellhounds, and of course standard zombies that also stood around during the daytime. Also, there were large frostbite spiders that would also roam during the day as well. We didn't have much of a strategy, we just kept collecting crafting materials until we were able to upgrade our turrets, which did most of the killing. It was pretty obvious Jeff and I had no clue what we were doing. When we played with 4 randos for the final 7-day run, this Chinese dude was non-stop yelling at us because we were way behind. They definitely carried our asses.
Next, we have the Doomsday mode. The name would lead you to think it's crazy different and unique, but no, pretty standard, pretty boring. This mode was based around colored spires dropping down randomly in truly random spots. I mean, they almost hit us occasionally, and you're given bombs dropped by these green tanky boys, which were used to destroy them. You were supposed to get rid of the bad ones and keep the good ones. We really couldn't nail down 100% what each spire did. Kevin kept translating what they meant, but none of them really seemed to impact gameplay much at all. We think green was a good one, yellow was used for radar disruption, red was a negative one, and blue was something neutral and non-noticeable. Again, none were crazy impactful. Overall, really dumb gimmick that we never figured out 100%. Also, the game wouldn't give us enough bombs to use on the spires in the first place, so that whole aspect of the mode we didn't pay much attention to be honest. Okay, this mode has a caveat. We initially thought this mode contained a single map, Crossfire, and when we completed it on Heroic, like we did for every other map that had the difficulty, we quickly realized it was probably the hardest mode. And what made it especially difficult was out of the 30 rounds, every 10, a teleporting boss zombie basically wielding dual-wield ray guns that look like soliquifiers and flashbangs would spawn and destroy us. God, were they overpowered, constantly one-shotting us. They were token drainers. We had to deal with those combined with all the other zombies. It's just really hard to explain how hard this shit was. So we eventually cranked out the 30 rounds on Crossfire, and then way later realized that there were 6 other maps. Not only was there not enough time before shutdown to complete them on Heroic, we ran out of revive tokens, so the Heroic 30 round maps were not happening. Some might call us out for not completing all on the hardest mode, but we wanted to complete every map for footage, and 30 rounds with those teleporting bosses amongst other difficulty enhancers, no way it was happening. So we completed the other 6 on ordinary mode, which were just 15 rounds long each instead of the Heroic 30. Those other maps were Raid, Oasis, Favela, Crash, Strike, and Standoff. Each map could be played with up to 4 players. The reason we initially missed those maps was some of the modes on COD Online didn't let you choose the exact map you wanted to play. Instead, you had to hit a random cycle button and hope you landed on the correct one. That feature kind of hid some maps. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's cover the zombie roster in this mode. Again, standard zombies, the bomb dropping green tanky boys who were very deadly because they exploded when you got close. Also, they were annoying because they would just roam around the map until provoked. Guard dogs, who were essentially the same thing as COD Online's hellhounds, both spit fire. There were mini bosses that looked straight out of Dark Souls, suicide bomber zombies, naked hazmat zombies, and of course those teleporting ray gun bosses. Here's if you don't believe us on how difficult these guys were.
Where is he? Do you still have him up there?
Devil
Yep,
just
get
exploded
out. Get
on
out. I'm coming back up there.
He did his normal shit. 1 health. Yep.
And if that wasn't enough teleporting, the impossible to kill standard teleporting zombies were back. And you guessed it, a third teleporting enemy. This time, as we called them, the blue portal security guard zombies. Also a pain in the ass. Even though we cranked out all 7 maps, it became so clear to us that every map of Doomsday followed the same formula every time. Dog round, Dark Souls round, upgrades became available at the same time every time, boss battle at the end. It just felt pointless to have all these different maps when they were just recycled multiplayer maps that were not designed for zombies in the first place. Those 7 maps maps contained so many buildings with a single entrance, which made completing them very cheesable. We'd find a cheese spot and sit there for the entirety of the game, no problem. This batch of maps felt included just for filler content. If you need proof of these maps not being meant for zombies, just look at these glitches and weird spawns. And again, like for most modes, it's still kind of surreal playing zombies on maps that were used to having multiplayer matches in. Each map had a pretty good camping spot. None were too difficult on ordinary. We really had some slimy setups on some of these. All I gotta say though for these maps, this version of Favela has to be the least visually appealing map I've ever played zombies on. It was so hard for us to see. For positives on the Doomsday mode, there was an upgrade option like I said. You could buff in-game stats using money you acquired. We also really liked the infinite ammo in this mode. It eliminated that ammo grind element, which was nice. Something insane about this mode I have to mention is the ability to choose characters, an option not seen in any other mode, and the four you had the option of choosing from were from a strange alternate but still canon premise storyline. They were Nikolai, a young Richtofen, potential son, a girl named Dempsey, potential daughter maybe, and an Asian character named Musha. Don't know if he's connected with Takeo, definitely a nod to him though. I've seen no one discover this insane alternate storyline, I had to mention. I always went with Nikolai, who had this dirty electric AA-12 as his main weapon, and Kev normally chose Dempsey with her freezing pistol. The character option also gave us 4 character unique abilities that were a fun added feature. My 4 included Monkey Bomb, Shield, a Shield regen, and a Bear Attack comparable to a Thunder Gun shot, which combined were deadly. Dempsey was alright as well. We didn't use Musha or Richtofen that much. They seemed less essential. The health in this mode was kind of odd. There would be a moving health regen ring that if you stood in, you would gain health back, but if a zombie entered it, you couldn't gain anything. This made getting health back late game pretty difficult, but there were occasional full health drops from enemies or from exploded spires, which were much appreciated. But also in this mode, when your health bar went to 0, you fully died. There was no reviving.
Next mode is Survival. Now off the bat, you're asking if it's the same as normal Call of Duty Survival. It's set up nearly the same way, where you have to fight off waves of enemies and have purchasable ammo and score streaks. How it differs is obviously you fight zombies this time. We wouldn't be playing it if not. And there was a set amount of rounds, 30 for us because we chose Heroic difficulty, or 15 if you choose Ordinary. Something that was different about this mode over all the others was it strangely had a 4-person requirement, meaning if 4 players weren't in the lobby, you couldn't start a match. They could leave once the game started, but 4 had to enter in together. It was such a dumb mechanic. This was tricky to deal with because no one really played this mode, so we experimented on how to get people into our lobbies, and we eventually developed a killer strategy. Jeff and I would enter the lesser played game modes and non-stop add everyone we saw as a friend. And once we each had a pretty big friends list, we would spam them invites until 2 others eventually joined our lobby. The strategy was a hustle, but it worked well enough to where we were able to play every map. Note that there was a normal survival mode in COD Online as well, with a lot of map overlap. Anyway, the maps in Zombie Survival were Crossfire, Raid, Seaside, Crash, and Standoff, instead of the normal, let's say, MW3 era survival, where you had the option of a weapon and ammo crate, score streaks crate, and explosives crate. Here in COD Online Zombie Survival, you had ammo boxes that had a gradual ammo refill, ability to buy armor, ability to switch classes, and some skills, perk boxes where you had an option to buy a random perk up to 3 times, the option to randomly reroll one of the 3 perks, and finally to reroll a specific perk out of the 3, and score streak boxes that had hunter-killer drones, predator missiles, mortar team strikes, and sentry turrets. An awesome feature in the survival mode was the gun shuffler perk, which was just a reskinned mule kick machine. There was also a gun shuffler perk on Zombie Island you could get at random, but in this mode it was purchasable for $2,000. This gave us the ability to use a huge variety of guns that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to use. The ray gun was also in the shuffle, the more powerful version that was also seen in the Doomsday mode. The gun shuffler perk was an easy way to not spend money on ammo, because the weapon switched out so quickly, so it was basically infinite ammo. The zombies present in this mode included standard zombies, Nova 6 hazmat zombies, suicide bomber zombies, fatties with stop signs, fire spitting hellhounds, minigun cyborgs, yellow tanky boys, blue portal teleporters, and floating doom heads. And of course, there were some boss battles. Interestingly enough, not all 5 maps had a boss battle, but some did. Each boss was an enemy we've seen previously. What I mean is on Raid and Standoff, the bosses were identical to the Flying Demon Exosuit boss from the Zombie Arena Ultra Zombies map. Seaside and Crossfire had bosses that were identical to the teleporting ray gun bosses from Doomsday, except this time they had pirate hats on. And on Crash, there wasn't a final boss, just several mini bosses. Some easier than others, Flying Demons, a piece of cake, but those damn teleporting ray gun bosses remained the hardest enemy we came across. Overall, this mode wasn't that difficult. The difficulty progression was very slow through each of the 30 rounds until the final boss battles, which were pretty tricky. Our strategy for each was honestly just training the smaller zombies by ourselves until the final round where we would team up and take out the bosses.
Okay, now for maybe the weirdest of the 6 modes, Zombie Havoc. It included a lot of non-traditional looking enemies, maps, and visuals in general. Just get a look at these crazy loading screens. Overall, a really different mode from what we're used to in the US. Also, something interesting found in this mode were the classic comic book animated cutscenes. Each map had them, each was very similar to Treyarch's US zombie maps. We really enjoyed those. It was cool to see those carry over. Also, those cutscenes were unique for having completely English dialogue. No clue why, but none were in Chinese. Zombie Havoc mode was essentially a linear style game where you would travel from point A to B across a map with a crew of up to 6 people, complete objectives along the way, and once you got to your destination, each map would end in a boss battle. It was notable for being the only mode with respawns after a 30-second timer, and the only one with 3D acted cutscenes as well. Zombie Havoc also included some unique drops not seen before in any other mode. There were 8 maps in total, and they were broken down into 4 chapters that would be split into 2 sections each following the cross-map journey into a boss battle format. The 4 chapters were Chapter 0, The Fissure, Chapter 1, Derailment, Chapter 2, Clues, and Chapter 3, Sign. Along the way, there would be several, almost too many, restock locations that had perk machines that provided health, ammo, and upgrades. Now, this aspect of the mode was insane. As you can see, the perk machines were obviously recolored, reused models of the Treyarch Zombies Perka-Cola machines. The 3 machines included a disguised Juggernog machine that supplied us with health, a double tap machine that gave us ammo, and a strange looking mule kick that was titled Pack-a-Punch that had several features including level upgrades which enhanced your in-game stats, the ability to drop your weapon for other players, the ability to change classes, and an option called consumables where it appeared to give you a mystery item. In those 4 chapters, instead of like in the other COD Online zombie modes where the location would take place in a recycled multiplayer map, usually these locations would be in a campaign mission, also from the Modern Warfare series, which were all a throwback to play in once again. Even in one of these boss battles, it uses the same animations and cutscenes from the iconic MW3 mission, Return to Sender. Now, when it comes to discussing Zombie Havoc, you can't go without talking about the weapon of all weapons, the Baller Blicky, the True Goat, the God Gun, the Arm of Gaia. Never has COD seen a more ridiculously overpowered gun than the Arm of Gaia. Seriously, our go-to weapon anytime it was available. It single-handedly was the reason certain maps were completed. Just know this gun trumps any other wonder weapon ever by a landslide. What made it so great was its unmatched rate of fire, crazy fast reload, damage output, and massive ammo count. It even had the ability to deploy a tripod with a shield attached and a double damage mode that all made it even more savage. Neither Kev or I had the weapon, but COD Online had that great feature found in the mule kick machine that allowed other players to drop their weapon for a price during the game. So in game we would run into Chinese players who had the sought after God Gun, and even though we spoke different languages, we were always able to communicate somehow that we needed the Arm of Gaia. That language barrier actually added a really fun, unexpected element to our experience, and receiving that gun from several Chinese players is a great example of that. Now, there's a lot to cover in these 4 chapters, so we're going to go chapter by chapter, breaking down what happens in each, including objectives, types of zombies, how the boss battle went, and overall notable things that occurred, starting with Chapter 0, The Fissure. Chapter 0 started off with us making our way to a church. When we arrived, we opened the door and found a generator that required 3 batteries. Once we found the 3, we needed to defend the generator until it hit 100% charge. The generator was literally just recycled models of thunder guns upside down, if you couldn't already tell. Once completed, we broke out of the church, where we continued our way down a linear path, even having to go through thick, slow mud and having to dodge green meteors falling from the sky. Then we ran into a cluster of what I believe were spider eggs, which we needed to destroy. After that, we made our way down to a zombie-heavy riverbank where we got into our first boss battle. For that boss battle, we faced the Corruptor, who wielded a glowing green hammer. In order to kill him, we needed to go through 3 stages of health bars. He had several abilities, such as pounding his chest to summon other zombies, rolling around the gated area very quickly and sporadically, which was extremely hard to avoid and would result in an instant death if hit. We eventually beat him after a few tries, and I think it's safe to say he was one of the harder bosses because of his RNG attack pattern and crazy amount of health. After that was the second part of the chapter. Part 2 started off with another on-foot linear trip through a city where we took out a shitload of enemies until we reached a building we were supposed to enter. We needed to transfer energy from one vice to another until it hit 100%. Once completed, we exited the building, ran through some more of the city, honestly just ignored all the zombies and rushed the checkpoints. We did have to dodge a few sand tornadoes on the way though, until eventually we got to the top of the construction site and started part 1 of the second boss battle, this time against the Lord. Yeah, that's what his name translated to. Where again, there were several stages of health that we needed to deplete. When we took out stage 1 of health, the Lord left and we repelled down the building into a sandstorm, again following the Return to Sender mission nearly identically. We plowed through the storm and eventually made it to the entrance to the next part of the boss battle. Us and the crew were then transported into a desert arena again to fight the Lord, where we took out the rest of his health with the help of a friendly blue mech seen a few times earlier in the map. The boss battle wasn't that hard, but it was notable for containing maybe the laziest cutscene of all time, with stiff models acting out the dramatic finish. Types of zombies found in Chapter 0, the Fissure, included standard zombies, king mini-bosses, running devils, giant zombies, literally just larger zombie models twitching around, spiked armored zombies, naked hazmat zombies, blue portal teleporters, Nova 6 hazmat zombies, spiders big and small, rock golem boys, and acid-spitting rooftop mini-bosses. Now it's time for the next chapter. Chapter 1, Derailment. Chapter 1 started off a little differently. This time we needed to escort an APC from point A to B, and along the way the APC would supply us with ammo, health, and support using its own weapons. We traveled through the map alongside it and needed to stay within the force field it provided. After a while, we eventually encountered a roadblock in the form of large green rocks that we had to wait for the APC to take care of. Once the APC cleaned up the road, we continued forward, killing more and more zombies until encountering another roadblock, this time a closed door. In order to open it, we had to continue on foot until we found a generator that needed charged. Once the power was back on, the APC moved forward and we continued onward until we reached the entrance to the first boss battle. Once it started, we were greeted by a boss named the Glutton, or the Hog as referred to as in the cutscene. Now, the Glutton fight was nearly identical to the Corruptor. He beat his belly to summon other zombies, rolled around, and had the same amount of health. Overall, not too hard and not too notable. Part 2 of Chapter 1 started with another APC protection trip across the map. Us and our crew made our way down the street and we entered a building and went a few floors up. We then ran out onto a roof where we needed to defend a satellite while it was uploading. Once that finished, we traveled a bit farther until we entered another building and started the sequence for the second boss battle. Then all of us spawned into an arena where we had to take down the Titan, a lava rhino looking guy who was actually seen earlier in the map and who, like others, had 3 stages of health. The boss battle really just consisted of the Titan swinging and stomping around and occasionally roaring to summon other zombies in. He did have a tricky to avoid move where he jumped out of the map and shot fireballs in the sky where we had to dodge them in the arena. The APC even participated in the fight like a 5th teammate, which helped. We eventually knocked him out because he was so slow and honestly a pretty easy boss. When it came to the other enemies we faced in Chapter 1, we saw standard zombies, fire-spitting hellhounds, guard dogs, fatties with stop signs, Nova 6 hazmat zombies, running devils, Dark Souls boys, blue portal teleporters, and big naked hazmat zombies. These 2 maps were notable for not including the strange looking perk machines seen in the other chapters. Instead, there was just ammo, health, and upgrade crates. That concludes Chapter 1. Now onto Chapter 2, Clues. Chapter 2 started us outside a prison, in a courtyard, during the winter, and our goal off the bat was to follow a drone flying overhead. It eventually led us into a prison that we quickly realized was straight out of the mission The Gulag in Modern Warfare 2. Us and one other guy made our way through the circular hallways until we ran into a door that needed to be destroyed, which of course was another one of those wait till the objective hits 100% parts. We eventually busted through the door and went farther into the prison until we got to a massive hallway that just had endless hordes of zombies through it. Then came a really interesting section where we had to navigate our way through a fire puzzle. All it really was waiting for a path to open up when the fire jets turned off. Seems easy, but it was a bit tricky. After we exited that, we entered the classic Gulag bathroom where we had to of course kill zombies, but also needed to take down a Juggernaut mini boss as well, who was no joke. We eventually took that bitch down and then had to wait again, while this time the drone we were following needed to do a 100% scan of the ground. After that, we placed some explosives and blasted our way down a level. Shortly after, we opened a door, went down another hallway until the boss battle timer started on our screen again. Once we entered the boss battle room, we were greeted by Sophia, who is a human in a mech. Not technically a zombie, but what even is technically a zombie in this game? The girl was tricky. She shot EMP missiles, charged at us with blades, used a flamethrower. Definitely took us a few tries, but we eventually succeeded in defeating her. Upon defeat, instead of dying, she just jumped out of the roof. After that, part 2 started us off in a garage, with again the objective of following a drone. It led us outside where we continued to plow through zombies. We soon realized again another campaign location, this time from the mission Down the Rabbit Hole from Modern Warfare 3. We eventually entered a building which we had to defend until we hit 100% on a DNA extraction. I know, weird. Once that was all done, we went back outside, right back into another building. We went deeper and deeper underground until we got to a bridge we needed to clear. We eventually crossed it and had to do another one of those 100% drone scans while killing zombies that crawled out of the pipes. Again, we blasted our way through the floor, made our way to an elevator lift which took us back outside. It was kind of funny and kind of sad because one of the guys missed the elevator and we watched as he got outnumbered down below. After we shed a few tears for our fallen teammate, we entered a crazy looking, pretty damn hard boss battle with the Crier. We saw him earlier in the map leaping around and screaming, but here we were able to face him. Yet again, another 3-stage health situation. After stage 1, he screamed and caused a snowstorm filled with zombie reinforcements who kicked our asses. The Crier also had a savage move where he would shoot a spike through our chest and eat us, which of course was an insta-kill. And he had a move where he'd crawl around super fast in a pattern, again guaranteed instant death. If that wasn't enough, the Crier then proceeded to blanket bomb the entire arena with ice spikes that were damn near impossible to avoid. Finally, we beat the mofo, but it wasn't easy. Personally, this was my favorite boss battle, probably favorite part of COD Online Zombies, period. It was so unique, so different feeling, and a good level of difficulty. Okay, so for the zombies present in Chapter 2 are as follows: standard zombies, fire-spitting hellhounds, Juggernaut mini-bosses who drop death machines, also in the Undead Siege mode, naked hazmat zombies, king mini-bosses, Dark Souls boys, blue portal teleporters, spiked armored zombies, running devils, and those guard dogs from Doomsday. So that about does it for Chapter 2 clues. Now onto the final chapter, Chapter 3 Sign. Right when we started Chapter 3 Sign, we thought it didn't qualify for this video because for the first part, you surprisingly only fight humans, making it of course not a zombies map. That didn't end up being completely the case, but in the beginning we were going against just soldiers with a variety of weapons, real dogs, and even some deadly attack helicopters. It felt strange going against enemies who shot back at us because we were so used to them not. Regardless, we started off in an alleyway that followed a linear path in and out of buildings. I realized after playing this map a few times, it didn't follow the same sequence of events every time. Maybe for variety, there was just some objectives I didn't see on the final run that I saw on previous runs, so it's possible these zombie Havoc maps shifted around a bit. The path eventually brought us to a shipping yard filled with enemies. Then we were tasked with defending a device that was cracking an encryption, again the 100% objective thing. We continued our way through the map, dealing with rough enemies, probably the hardest section yet. Thankfully, one of our crew members had these crazy blue grenades that he was spamming, which were annihilating the enemies. Then came a 100% C4 blast timer that required us to hold down a spot, again quite difficult. After we successfully set off the C4, we continued down a long subway until it was time for another boss battle. Again, we were faced with a mech, this time named the Hound. The Hound was really easy. He just slid around with his blades, shot those EMP missiles, same flamethrowers, and summoned some soldiers as well. Once we finished him off, it was time for the last part of the last chapter. Part 2 brought back the APC protection section, which were preferred because they're a lot easier. Also, zombies were back. So Strange Part 1 had none, but regardless, we were glad to see them return. In the beginning, we were just simply protecting the APC while going through a city until we ran into an objective that required us to stand on 2 platforms and defend the APC while it was sensing a signal. Once we accomplished that, we entered an underground parking garage where we mowed down zombies like normal until the APC needed a repair, and again we had to protect it until it hit 100%. Then came another puzzle. Instead of the fire jets, it was electric barriers that needed to be avoided. It required a lot of jumping and dashing, which was fun and different. Once we died several times, we eventually finished the puzzle and were back out onto the streets. We kept progressing our way up the road until we were tasked with destroying some waste canisters. After that, it was time for the final zombie Havoc boss battle. The boss was Nicholas the Guardian, and he definitely was a harder one. He had a variety of attacks, including jumping, pounding, shooting red grabbers, sprinting across the map, shocking the ground and killing players using his tentacle arms, and finally swinging lasers around the arena that had to be jumped or ducked over. His death marked the end of Chapter 3 Sign. Only thing left to cover are the zombies / enemies found in this chapter, which included soldiers, dogs, attack helicopters, juggernauts, all in Part 1, and then standard zombies, fire-spitting hellhounds, giant zombies, Nova 6 hazmat zombies, humpback zombies, king mini-bosses, blue portal teleporters, a new type of crawlers, spiked armored zombies, and spiders, all for Part 2. We realized later, after beating all the boss battles, that Zombie Havoc was pretty popular. We believe it was because the fragments / shards you won from completing the boss battle had some benefit. Regardless, we had the most fun in this mode.
Now it's time to cover the 3 modes that were not available in the last playable version of COD Online. Those 3 being Aerial Reaper, Deus Ex, and Evacuation mode. Just know, for these 3, it will not be our footage, but instead what we could find online, which we will credit. Also know that these modes had a larger emphasis on the early poker cards currency. Apparently the player base wasn't a fan at all of this because it relied heavily on microtransactions. Expect to see those being used in the gameplay. Anyway, let's start with Aerial Reaper. From the looks of it, there was only a single map for this mode titled Sunset City, and the mode came in 2 difficulties, Ordinary and the other literally called Difficulty. Sunset City was of course the location from the mission Wolverines from MW2. Aerial Reaper was a single player on-rails linear style mode where you would ride in a Reaper helicopter with infinite ammo where you would have to take down cyborg zombies, tanky cyborg mini-bosses, hazmat zombies, green glowing money cyborgs, napalm zombies, cyborg dogs, cyborg suicide bombers, red alien towers, a giant alien boss, spaceships, and UFOs who would all teleport all around attempting to kill you and the hostages you needed to save. Once you killed all the enemies and saved most of the hostages, you would have to complete a 3-stage boss battle with that giant alien who teleported around, shot missiles and machine guns, and would even throw zombies at you. On your way leading up to that boss battle, you accumulated money, which could be used to buy better guns like a Gatling gun, or even more powerful options like missiles. Overall, didn't look too hard, and we were bummed we didn't get to play it because from what we see online, it looks like easily one of the craziest COD zombie modes to ever exist. Okay, for the second unplayable mode titled Evacuation, it consisted of 5 maps, with those being Ambush, Sea Town, Estate, Bog, and Overgrown, which all of course are from the Modern Warfare series. It was also available in 3 difficulties, Ordinary, Veteran, and Heroic. Evacuation was centered around defending and escorting a certain number of civilians, depending on difficulty chosen, to an escape helicopter. You needed to protect them from cyborg zombies, cyborg dogs, and tanky cyborg mini-bosses all seen in the previous mode, and and a large spaceship boss similar to the one seen in Aerial Reaper mode. Once you and your team of up to 6 players saved all the necessary civilians, you needed to complete a boss battle against that large spaceship. Throughout the game, players could replenish ammo, buy perks, and purchase score streaks from crates scattered around each map to aid in the fight against the cyborgs and the boss battle. Once the final boss was beaten, you and your team needed to get to a final helicopter for extraction. That's basically it for this mode. Nothing crazy besides the fact they took place on even more recycled maps that we weren't used to seeing zombies on. Again, would have been nice to play this mode as well, but what are you gonna do? For the final mode discussed today, and the last of the 3 unplayable modes, it was called Deus Ex. There were 3 playable maps titled Night Farm, Urban Legend, and Arsenal. Again, locations from the Modern Warfare series. Available in 3 difficulties, Ordinary, Veteran, and Heroic again. This mode was very similar to the Zombie Havoc mode discussed earlier, even had some map overlap, but we count these maps as separate because a lot of different stuff occurred within them. Deus Ex is again another linear style mode where up to 6 players need to escort an APC from point A to B, and once that's accomplished, you finish each map by beating a final alien boss, who is the same one from the Aerial Reaper mode. The alien boss does his normal attacks, but this time throws cars, showers grenades, and get this, you could even enter his body through his foot, identical to entering the robot's feet in Origins. The APC that you guide throughout the map had customizable elements such as the ability to ride on top and an added weapon to the front to mow down zombies, both which are comparable to the bus's customizations in Transit. The APC also appeared to have an ammo box, but that's unconfirmed. The zombie roster for this map included cyborg zombies, cyborg dogs, suicide bomber zombies, blue portal teleporters, napalm zombies, the giant alien boss, UFOs, which could abduct you, then you would have a mini boss battle within it, super dope, and tanky cyborg mini bosses, all seen in the previous modes. Again, they all teleport into the map like an Aerial Reaper. Deus Ex also had semi-optional civilians / hostages which you could save. It wasn't the primary focus, similar to Aerial Reaper where you can save them, but the mode isn't based around it like in Evacuation. Again, there were crates scattered around where you could purchase ammo, perks, and score streaks. This mode had a mechanic not seen in Zombie Havoc mode, this mode's sequel, where the players needed to refuel the APC in order to keep it moving. On the maps Night Farm and Arsenal, after you completed the boss battle, you and your crew would need to kill a few more zombies and escape on the APC to victory. That wasn't the case for Urban Legend, where the game ended after the boss's death.
Well, that's it. 9 modes, 36 maps, everything zombies related that COD Online had to offer, documented here. It's a crime that COD Online was that, only online. If you try to play the game now, you'll be greeted by a grayed out start button. This video was made with the intention of detailing a Call of Duty Zombies experience that little had access to, and the ones that didn't really break down what made it so crazy unique. It's sad to say, but COD Online is now alongside Heroes, Siege, and Global Operations as the server-based Call of Duties that are now unplayable. Overall, we're definitely gonna miss this game. It wasn't the most fun COD title, but it had major charm. People had issues with its supply drops and various microtransactions, but it was truly free to play. I mean, we didn't spend money and we had fun. It would have been nice to document the entire game, including every mode, but we had limited time, so we decided to just tackle zombies. Plus, I've beat the campaign previously in another video, so I guess that's immortalized as well. Gotta say, major shout out to Kevin for helping me beat these maps, and for recording his gameplay as well, because 40% of my footage corrupted, so that came in majorly in handy. And he and my boy Rogue for letting me borrow their graphics card during this chip shortage. Time was of the essence and they majorly came in clutch. Also, shout out to the YouTube channel Xenia COD. He allowed me to use a lot of his footage for those unplayable modes, and his channel honestly documents most of COD Online's modes. You should definitely check him out. He's honestly a COD Online historian. Lastly, download the Google Translate app, use the camera feature, and correct me on translations, or if you speak Chinese, or if you've played the game previously, just let us know any incorrect translations. I guarantee we got some wrong. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Stay tuned for the upcoming zombie series, and before you go, witness the final moments of COD Online before its August 31st, 2021 shutdown.